Hello everybody and welcome to the first part of this tutorial series where we're going to be making red light, green light from the popular Netflix show, The Squid Game. So for those who don't know what happens in that, basically there is a long corridor with an enemy at the bottom and there's you and a bunch of NPCs at the other end of the corridor, the enemies at the end. The enemy turns round when it's red light, and if you are moving when she's turned round and it is red light, you die. When it's green light, you can move closer towards the end. If you get to the end, you're safe. I'm sure you all know this game. I just wanted to break it down real quickly for those who've not seen it. And we're going to crack straight on with that. So the first thing I've done is loaded up a third-person project, an empty one, and then created an enemy folder. That's all I've done. And then inside the enemy folder, I'm going to create a new blueprint class, and it's going to be a character, and it's going to be called enemy underscore BP. And then we're going to open this up, and we're going to do most of the logic for testing to see if the player's moving and, you know, the timers and all that sort of stuff inside the enemy. So, but before we do that, we need to actually add a mesh. So let's go over to the mesh up here and go, it's a skeletal mesh, and click on this drop down menu. And if you've only just got the SK mannequin, that's fine, but I'm going to go for the female one, seeing as it's a sort of girl doll in the show. It's kind of creepy. We will be adding proper modular characters later on to the NPCs, and we'll also be able to add it to the enemy. But today and in this session, all we're trying to do is get the game working, so all the gameplay functional. Okay, so now we've got this in. What we're going to do is we're going to add in a light, a point light, and we're going to just lift that up above her head. Like so. I'm also going to turn that up to 50,000. I'm just going to leave it called, I'm just going to call it light. And we're going to set it initial color to be green. Okay, and then in a minute, we're going to go and change the light color when we need to. Okay, so first thing we need to do is test to see if the player is moving. All the gameplay elements revolve around seeing if the player is moving. So we'll do that on the tick. So we'll drag out from the tick and we'll cast to the third person character. And then out from the object pin here, we need something in there. So we'll get player character. Okay, and what this cast does is it allows us to access the information inside the third-person character, and we can do that here. So as third-person character, we can get velocity. This is going to tell us our speed, but there's a problem. This is a vector, and we need a float because we need a number. We need to be able to check if we're going above or below it. So what we can do is we can just type in vector length, and that will convert the vector into a float. And then we can drag out of that and we can check to see if float is greater than or equal, so let's just say 20 for now, so just if we're moving at all. So that's not high at all. Then we want to get a branch. So hold down B on your keyboard, left click, and that'll give you a branch. You can also right click and then type branch. All right, and drag that into the condition. So this checks every tick. So we need to change this in a minute, but we can go with it for now. Every microsecond, that's what a tick is essentially, it checks to see if the third person character is moving more than 20, I think it's pixels, but it's, is its speed higher than 20? If it is, so if it's true, we're going to set simulate physics on the mesh. Okay. Now, we don't want this mesh for the target. We want to come out of here. So we want to drag as third person character and type get mesh. Right, and that wants to go into the target there. All right, we also want to tick that to be true. That's important, or it won't do anything. We'll comment that quickly, and we'll say check player speed. Okay. Right. Next thing we do is just give that a quick test. So compile it, hit play. Oops, stop. Hit play. Now, it won't work because we haven't dragged the NPC into the world. So we'll do that now. Put at the top of these stairs here. And I'm going to, she wants to be facing away from us. And I'm going to just enlarge her by 2 steps. So 1, 2. And there we go. All right. So if I hit play, even though it's green light now, if I move at any point, I will start to simulate physics. But you'll see there's a problem that, look at my character, if I move, he just drops straight through the floor. Now, the reason he's doing that is because the third-person character is not set up to ragdoll. So that's really easy to change. So click on your third-person character, find him in your outliner, go to the viewport, click on the mesh, then find on the right-hand side here, find collisions, collision preset, change that to ragdoll. Compile. Now, when we hit play, okay, so right now, it doesn't matter if it's red light or green light. It just checks to see if we're moving. If we move at all, at any time, we die. Okay? So that's the basis of it, I guess, set up. But really, it needs to be more complicated than that. So what we're going to do is come over to the variables and create a Boolean that says is red light question mark. Drag that in and get it right at the start of the tick. Okay, and then press B again and click for a branch. Plug that into the condition. So if red light is true, then we go ahead and do all this code. All right. So because red light is now set to false, we can move around. So in order to just, get her to change from green light to red light, all we have to do is switch that variable. So, whoops. Let's go ahead and set that logic up. All right. So we've got the speed check. Now what we need is an event begin play because we want to do this as soon as the game starts. So as soon as the game starts, we want a delay. And this delay can be a random float. Can't spell. Random float in range. For now, just set it to be 3 and 6. You can play around with these numbers though if you want to. And then we will set red light. We'll set it to be true. So you've got this period after the game starts where you've got some time to walk forward, and then we'll set is red light to be true. Okay, then what we want to do is we want to bring in this light and we want to set light color, I believe it's called. Set light color here. And we want to set it to red. Okay, and hit OK. Right, so that will change the light color. And then all we need to do is copy this, Control C and V. Then we get another delay. And this time we want to set that to be false. And we want to change the light color back to the green. So I don't know if that's going to be the exact same green, but we'll just go for it. Go with it, should I say. Okay, so now let's comment that. We'll call this the main loop. What we need to do, though, to actually make it a loop is drag out from here and go back into the delay there. And just to make this a little cleaner, we'll just tidy this up a little. Okay, so event begin play, delay for a little bit, set red light to be true, turn the light to be red. Then have another delay. This is where we can't move. And then after that delay, we set red light to be true and we change the light back. Okay, so if we hit play now, not got it set up like that. So if we hit play now, green light, I can move. Red light, not so much. Okay, just give that another little test. Green light, everything's all good. Red light, no, don't like it. Okay, so that's great. But one of the problems we have is that we don't have any warning for the player, right? They just cop for it straight away. So what we really need to do is create a warning system. So let's create a variable called red light timer. And that wants to be a float. We also need another float called green light timer. And we then want to create a custom event. So right click, add custom event. We'll call this red light warning. And then we will drag in the red light timer and set it. We want that to be set to a random integer, not a float. A float is from 0 to 1. And we want to set it, but you can then use an integer to set it to be a different value. We could have created this timer to be an integer, and that would have worked just fine. But this shows you that you can, use an integer with it. So what we're going to do is right click, don't drag out, but just right click an empty space and type random integer in range. And if you just plug that into there, it'll convert it for you. Okay, and the minimum wants to be, 3 to 6. That's what we had it set up above. Okay, and now this will be the number that we can put into here in a bit, and we'll change that in a minute. All right, so once that's done, and we've got how long this timer is going to be, we then need to get that timer and then minus something from it. All right, in order to have enough time to give the player a warning. So let's create a new variable, and we'll call it stop prep. All right, so this is you're preparing to stop. All right, we're giving some time to stop. You could have got all this warning or whatever. Then drag that in and set it. Okay, but what it wants to be is it wants to be this number minus 1. So drag out from here, and we want a float minus a float. And then in the top, we'll put the red light timer, and then leave this at minus 1. If you want it to be less time, you can, change that. The reason we're using a float here is that now we can use decimals, so we can have more refinement over this. Okay, and then once you've done that, we're going to print a string. Oh no, sorry. Then we want a delay. That's what this whole thing is for, to get that. Now that's the delay we're going to use for this print string. Now later we're going to add a sound effect. It's going to say like red light, green light. But for now we can just have red, big letters, red light warning. So the player can see, or we can see while we're testing, and we'll change that to the red color as well, so it all makes sense. Okay, so now we need to go and do the same thing, but for a green light warning. It's a little different. Add custom event, green light warning. And it's not really a warning in this case, and you'll see what I mean. Okay, so again, we drag in green light timer, set it, because when the green is ready to go, we don't need to warn the player. They can go instantly. So the green line timer wants to be, again, it wants to be a random integer in range. So I'm just to speed things up, I'm just going to copy this, drag that in. You might want to play with these times so they're a little different for each one, but for now we'll just keep going. And then we don't need to do this bit because we don't need a warning. All right. So all we need after here is a delay. And the delay wants to be the green light timer. All right. And then we're going to print the string. And instead of saying green light warning, I just have this say green light. And then drop this down and make it green. Okay, so it all logically makes sense. Right, so let's just comment that. We want that to be red light warning and green light warning. Okay, perfect. So let's compile this and see if it's all. Oh no, before it'll start working, in fact, we've got to plug this into our main loop. All right, so we want to event begin play, and then we want to drag out, and we want red light warning. And then this wants to go into here. Okay. Oops. Oh, come on. Yeah, like that. And then that goes into the delay. And then over here, before this second delay, we want the green light warning. Right. Also, these delays, even though they are set up exactly the same, it is better to just get these just in case you do change them and refine them later on and plug those into the delays. So get the red light timer and the green light timer and plug those into those delays, and then we can get rid of those. But the code is exactly the same at the moment. So doing that is a bit redundant unless you want to go and refine later on, which I'm sure you will want to. Okay, so green light, we can move around. It took red light warning. So it gave us a bit of time to chill. While it's red, we can't move. While it's green, we can. Red light warning, but I didn't listen, so I'm dead. Okay, so that's the basic of the mechanics. There isn't really much else to do in terms of the building blocks. But next, in the next part, the next video, we will be looking at adding NPCs and maybe setting up the actual play space a little bit as well. Okay, but that's going to be it for this one. Shall see you in the next one.